que ofrecer. Tiene tanto que ofrecer. Es el sueño el motor, son las metas a alcanzar. Siempre hay que descubrir la manera de vivir. Este lugar, esta tierra, tiene tanto que ofrecer. Sueño el motor, son las metas a alcanzar. Siempre hay que descubrir la manera de vivir. Este lugar, esta tierra, tiene tanto que ofrecer. Tiene tanto que ofrecer. Tiene tanto que ofrecer. Es el sueño el motor, son las metas a alcanzar. Siempre hay que descubrir la manera de vivir. Este lugar, esta tierra, tiene tanto que ofrecer. Sueño el motor, son las metas a alcanzar. Siempre hay que descubrir la manera de vivir. Este lugar, esta tierra, tiene tanto que ofrecer. Tiene tanto que ofrecer. Tiene tanto que ofrecer.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to PSGL, where we head into another round of great racing. Once again, I'm joined by a lovely friend, Benjamin, and how are you doing today?
Good to be here. China, Shanghai. I'm going to cut to the chase. I'm going to kill all suspense in terms of the track reveal. You know it in the title. It's one we don't see in the league rotation all that often, so I'm very excited.
I'm pumped for it. I was very fortunate. Actually, we were both fortunate to do this track a few days ago, and for me, I think personally, for the work I did, it definitely posed some great racing and great opportunities for drivers in terms of strategy.
Yeah, it's got a lot of different options. I mean, the uncertainty factor is probably the strongest here out of any other track, where not only, of course, as I said, don't see it much in rotation, but it's also one of the few tracks where we haven't seen these generation of cars in real life on this track in this configuration. So you've got a lot of strategy fighting, I think, on this track. You've got a lot of variations in setups because, well, when we go to talk about the track in more detail later, you see there's a lot of variation in the makeup of the track in terms of how fast and how slow it can be. There is a pretty high potential for some big upsets in the championship.
Massively high potential for that. And talking of the championship, the tables have slightly turned. Lund has reclaimed his throne after a long period of time of not being at the top. He has found himself only 6 points ahead of Joris, which, to be honest, the wins are separated. 3 for Lund, 2 for Joris. But Joris does have a podium, so 3 podiums apiece. This championship between these two, we never really... I don't think we sat down and said, oh yeah, Joris and Lund's going to be the championship battle. We initially said Dimas and Lund, but how the table has turned.
Yeah, I think early days, because don't count out as well, you've got 1 win there for Aleda. Aleda was definitely in the talks to be one of the early contenders, but of course they had their 2-race ban and then didn't start on the previous race in Baku as well. I didn't expect so much of the win to go to those two specifically. 5 out of 6 to go to just these 2 drivers. Usually in PSGL, in most tiers, we see a fairly balanced split. Like, there's occasional drivers who get 2 on the trot or get 2 overall, but you don't see this kind of concentrated win rate really at all.
Yeah, and to be honest, if we have that kind of the score sheet, the standings in front of us. Realistically speaking, as well as that, all the podiums as well are quite near the top. They are situated amongst and split, I'd probably say, fairly well from Dimas above, because they're the ones that have had that double podium position, hence why the mass amount of points, and kind of states obvious. But again, split between Dimas, which is the top 6, again, a concentrated area of really good, strong drivers.
Yeah, really strong is at the top, and that kind of leans into where we've got almost 2 races going on by this point. We have the main championship fight, so London Joris, and to an extent, the likes of Danico and Isvan Nage as well, although Nage isn't going to be driving this round. They're unfortunately ill, so hope they get better soon. But these top 3, 4, 5 are kind of in this pretty heated battle, and then you've got this just gap where you've got all of the other drivers in the sort of 25 to 30 point realm onwards, where they do technically have a fighting chance on paper. But looking at the rest of the field and how much of the top spots are concentrated to the top end of the board, it's looking like we are definitely going to see 2 packs forming.
Yeah, and it'll be very interesting, especially with this type of track. And talking of this type of track, the Chinese track, beautiful as it is, a 3.3 mile circuit with 16 turns. All of them, one thing I love about the track, and as you can see on your screen, it's a very flowing style of track. And though it looks all so smooth, there are so many challenging areas, and I fail to see why this isn't on the calendar more. Because you've got the likes of turn 11 and 14 and 3, which is your slow sections, but then you've got your fast sections like 7, 8, you've got turns 1 and 2 technically is fairly fast, turn 16 as well. Each one of these corners has a unique challenge behind them.
Yeah, certainly a unique approach that you have to take with these whole, with all of the challenges this track can possess. Like, for example, my main highlights are the opening sector, where you've got a pretty tight and confined, almost triple apex with turns 1 and 2. You've got to balance your car perfectly, get your car turned in right at the optimal time in order to get yourself in at that prime position to accelerate out, head into turn 3, and then gun it into the second sector where it gets much more fast and flowing. We do see a bit of bravery into turn 13 because it is banked as well, heading into the major back straight in the DRS zones of the back straight and then the start-finish straight as well. But it is such a varied track to the point where I personally haven't seen one setup dominate.
I've not been able to look as detailed as you. But one thing I have noticed critically is, in terms of that setup, the power of how that then leads on into the race. Because one setup definitely favours, you know, the straight line speed. We're seeing drivers able to hold their own, especially in the race, hold their own with a driver with DRS behind them between turn 13 and 14, and yet the driver ahead doesn't even have DRS. So those setups are going to be powerful. But then you got the ones in the corners who are able to actually go side by side through 17 and turn 7 and 8, and you go, hold damn, that's a lot of downforce.
Yeah, I think it's where you get into that wider conversation of a quali setup versus having a race setup. Because you can lose a couple of tenths in a quali, say like you're gunning all out on acceleration or all out on the cornering to nail the first and second sectors. In the actual race, I think that you need a bit more speed overall because you need that overtaking velocity. Like when you start out great with that quali setup, you're in a good position. But of course, if you say go for a quali setup that has a lot more grit, you need to advance positions. You then don't have the top end because you're so tuned towards the corners.
Absolutely, and talking of corners, Aleda is about to round turn 14, which means that now he will have to put on the pace, and I'll do the hot lap for this one as we round turn 16. It's so easy to invalidate on turn 16 and ruin your race from the ruin your qualifying from the get-go. So keep the car within the lines, and you can see Aleda now heading into turn 1. It's an awkward turn because you're constantly applying some brake throughout turn 1 and turn 2, and then once we get to turn 3, it's one of the slowest, it's not the slowest section on the track, and you can see Aleda fighting with the rear end, trying to get the grip down before heading into turn 6, where Daniel Ricciardo had demonstrated many and many of overtakes in the 2012 season when he had a comeback in the Chinese Grand Prix. Turn 7, downforce is key. You try and flat it out through turn 7, but you have to then lift off the accelerator with a dab of brake through turn 8. 9 and 10 behaves almost like a double apex, and you can essentially call it one corner, but realistically it's two. Into turn 11, it's probably the third slowest section on this track, and also the most horrible traction zone to come out of. A lot of drivers you'll see to have understeer and oversteer before heading onto this long straight. The achieving speeds of about 200 plus miles an hour before heading to turn 14, the slowest place on the track, the heaviest of braking zone, and a little lockup from Aleda. You can hear that in the audio sound. Again, some good traction. Round 15 through turn 16, keep it within the white lines, and across the line to put it at a 132.
It's 132, almost completely flat. Are we going to see any improvement from the rest of the field? Justin Alter's 32.7. Zerke going to be 132.4. Going to slot himself in that second spot. Ryderdahl coming in with a 32.3. Any other challengers coming to the field? Joris with a 131.8. Immediately reasserting their challenge for the top end of things. Ice Bear with a 0.2. You got Alessandro Finn with a 0.1. So the Ferrari's second and third right now. Immediately displaced by Dimas though with a 131.9. Cordon with a 139.9 as well. Garofu with a 32.2. Second Haas coming out. Alexander Johansson 133.0. That's going to be Alfa Romeo Super Game with a 32.3. And then that leaves 5 drivers left who are still setting a time.
Yeah, so one of them will be Lund. He's coming up to the final corner. What can he put on the board? 127, 128. The clock is ticking. He's getting up to the line. 131.825. Puts himself fastest. Norwicki, teammate of Dimas, usually puts up a little tear. No, only good enough for P9. And it's remaining is Lundqvist. Going to cross the line. Finds himself in a comfortable P13.
Yeah, and then you've got Ayat and Danico, who have not set out on a hot lap yet. And really should do, because it will go a long way to even just set a banker lap. You've got drivers who are in the 133s right now, technically. So just put something on the board at this stage. You can worry about fine-tuning your runs later. You've got 12 minutes to go.
Absolutely. And talking of times, I think we're going to be low 31s. Possibly, I think lowest we're going to see today, maybe a 31.2. I don't believe, unless someone can pull out a monster lap, I don't think we're going any lower than that. I think that's the benchmark for, or the quickest we're going to see.
Yeah, I think that is a good benchmark to aim for. Realistically, for all of these drivers, if you want to get a good position, you have to be in those 31s. Just on the cusp, as the likes of Aleda and Finn, where they might get away with a decent position, but really, you need to be in the 0.1 or the 31.8s. I'd say that in the next few minutes or so, we're going to see people start to creep into the 0.6s, maybe even the 0.5s, and then we'll really start to get a true idea of the pace of people are carrying. But that being said, it's getting a little bit overcast, a little bit cloudy.
Yes, you definitely want to make the run sooner rather than later, while the temperature of the track is lovely and warm. And Danico is finally going out, so he is going completely against the grain of the rest of the drivers. And for his championship hopes in P3 at the moment, he's got 2 second places, and then the last 2 races has not scored any points. He's kind of in that position where he really does need to pull something out of the bag. So trying something different in his case, I don't think that's a bad idea.
Yeah, I think there's a case to definitely be made where everyone else has gone into the pits. He's using the clean air that's available on the track and getting out while nobody else is running. You got this massive pack that have just come out of the pits for a second run, and I think seeing the clouds overhead has kind of inspired them to get a bit of a move on. But yeah, Danico here, setting himself up to get a lap potentially under completely clean conditions. Although he's at the mercy of the pit lane and who's going to come out for their second run soon.
Yeah, I think the pit lane's going to be the problem here. And especially for other drivers, because you can see there's a chunk who have gone out and a chunk who have stayed. And that's getting really dark. I've just properly looked at the sky. That is getting really dark really fast. So you've got to put in a time soon before you get caught out.
Yeah, well, Danico's about to get on a hot lap here. I think we should hop on board and stick with him, as we're going to be seeing just what he can do in that McLaren. So the MCL 36.
Sounds right.
Through its paces. Here we go. So turn 1 here. You've got to nail the multiple apexes. Hangs it wide out of turn 2, then gets a narrow entry into turn 3. That's really where this section comes alive. It's all about setting yourself up properly for the cadence, the complex of corners. Hopefully nobody's going to intrude on him. Yep, Aston Martin staying nice and clean out of the way. Good job there. Absolutely hitting the apex of turn 6 there, heading into the second sector. Turn 7 now. All about bravery, commitment. You've got to have faith in the car, faith that it'll stay planted. Plenty of downforce. Looks to have got a good approach here. A little bit wide. Gets the almost pendulum effect of swinging the car around turns 9 and 10 at that double apex. Opening up the taps as we head into sector 3 here. It's looking quite strong for Danico. Hasn't got prior benchmark to set himself, but he's looking like a very good time compared to some of the rest of the runners. Oh, big slip though, coming out of turn 12, heading into turn 13. That's what we were saying about having the bravery, having the commitment to push on at that corner with the banking. It can be your greatest friend, but it can also be your enemy if you overestimate it. Here we go, back straight, 202 miles an hour, a couple miles an hour slower than we've seen the rest of the field at, but nails the apex at turn 14. And coming through the final couple of corners here, to round out the lap. If not for that slip, I think we could have been seeing a potential pole time here. But let's see what he's made of it. It's still going to be a 32.3. It's only good enough for P12, but yeah, that slip, I think we could have easily seen him on the 32's 0.0, if not a 0.1.
Yeah, 100%. Lund is about to start his lap, so we're going to ride with Joris for the moment, seeing what he can do to improve. He is actually improving on his lap time, looking to be a 10th faster from his previous lap, running it wide of turn 4, the exit of turn 15, and actually abandoning his lap, even though it did look promising.
Yeah, I think you get almost a sense of intuition. You want to err on the side of caution when there's a time limit like this. I think he just didn't want to overcommit to a lap that he knew was false. So even if he felt like a tiny bit of slip, in the position he's in, it's really not worth pushing anything. But he has got a bit of a threat because Finn has pipped his time, Leo Lund's time, by 3 milliseconds.
It is ever so close as we're watching Dimas, who's actually having some good improvement here. P4 at the moment. It's a strong performance. He's had practice on Monday. Now he's going to the race on Thursday, and he performed well. Definitely some room to improve, and I think a lot of these drivers would have done this around the similar times of Monday, Tuesday, because I think most other leagues as well are doing China at this time, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are. I also, one thing I picked up on, and as we're on board with Dimas, watch the gearing. And as you go to other drivers, watch the gearing, specifically the gears they pick for certain corners and coming out of the tighter sections. But 0.725 for Dimas is going to put himself on pole, provisional pole here. Lund is going to pip Alessandro Finn by another 7 milliseconds to put himself 0.815. That's P2. We're going to see anyone go for a bigger challenge. Aleda is going to hop up the order a tiny bit. It's going to be about a 10th. In fact, 0.08 of a second is going to pop himself in P5. Cordon, though, 6 milliseconds in it. In the AlphaTauri, he's going to put himself pole and snatch it out of Dimas' hands.
Brilliant work. We're currently watching Johansson. Can he put himself into the top 10, or is he going to fail to disappoint me once again? I say fail to disappoint me. He disappoints me usually. And he is. He's going to stay P13. Not major improvement, but more work needed to be done. For those who
just looking for that improvement.
Yeah, for those who are wondering why I'm so harsh on Johansson, me and him are good friends. So I have full permission to roast him. The joys of knowing these drivers. The same with Zerky. I've now gained the trust and permission to roast him. So both Haas drivers doing absolutely terrible and making me cry on the inside.
Oh dear. Looking around the rest of the field, is Nowicki on a lap? No, Nowicki was just coming through turn 13, 14-ish here and was not on a run. Is Aleda though? It looks like he might be pushing. Nope, he's not going to be. He is not deploying the battery. And everyone's kind of just peeling back into the pits for preparing, I assume, their final runs. The track is looking real overcast. We could potentially have quali order prematurely.
We definitely could. I'm literally leaning like I'm trying to see around the screen that's being shown, and yeah, I'll not be surprised if we call this the lap times. I've got hiccups now. I've got a few drivers coming out to maybe put in one last attempt while the track is dry. But I'm feeling, 2 minutes left? 1 minute left? We're going to get the rain.
I think we're already seeing, some of the parts of the track, whether that might be a visual glitch, but some of them are already starting to appear a little bit glossy. So I think it is just a matter of time here. That rain chance, I assume, internally is going to be, in fact, I can pull it up on the internals here. 54% rain within the next few minutes, and that is climbing up by 2-3% every few seconds. So drivers, if they've got engineers on their end, they know they have to get in there fast. They have to get their laps in now if they want any chance at jumping up the order.
Yeah, and that's what Joris is doing exactly. He is trying to put in one more good lap to make sure that he holds a good, strong contention for this championship. He's 2 positions behind, well, he's technically two positions behind his championship rival. So he needs to put his foot down and try and push his way up to the top, as we're going to ride on board with Joris. I'm going to let you do the hot lap while I try and control these hiccups.
Yeah, it's looking good from Joris here. Remember, P3, that's where he needs to be. That's where his opponent, Leo Lund, the main other protagonist in the championship, currently lies, and it's 25 milliseconds between the two of them. So Joris has the time to beat, he just needs to fully commit to it. Looking pretty good through Sector 1. I'm going to see if there's any improvement on the splits here. It's about half a tenth, so keep that momentum up and he will be where he needs to be. Just needs to not crack under the pressure, and he needs to pray to the weather gods. If there are any deities watching, please lend him an extra minute. It's all he needs, one more minute to get this lap down. Then the heavens can open for all he cares. He just needs to connect this, hook this together. Turns 9 and 10 now. They're looking very strong, using every inch of the track available. It's another big jump in timing. It's about 2 tenths overall compared to their previous best. Turn 13 now, where drives are made or broken. Very strong there. Watch how they stick into a low gear. Make sure they have the traction, the stability, really roll onto the throttle. Full push there. Manages to nail the exit. And here we go. Turn 14. Make or break time. Hit it straight on the apex. I'd say a little bit narrow of an entry there, but does use the full width of the track regardless. Final couple corners here. Don't overdo it. Don't overextend. Nice and parallel to the curb. Across the line. It's a .633. Joris says provisional pole.
That's a good time and a good gauntlet to set, as Dimas does improve. He can't actually get faster. Cordor, he's starting his lap, I believe, so he's on the edge right now. Lund just started his lap just a few moments ago. Finn, well, that's not looking confident, and especially with the rain is hovering over this track. He's going to be starting his lap with a minute left, and this will be his final run. Who else is looking to start? Riderhall, he's on it. No, he's backed out. He's turned off the ERS power, hence why the flashing red light, and I think that's him done for today. Super Gaming coming round the corner. He's not able to improve unless he can nail the final corner and this very last part of the track, but realistically it doesn't look strong. I don't think it's going to be an improvement. Mild improvement, not enough to gain a position.
Tiny improvement, and realistically this is everyone's last run. You got a few who are going out there, but the track temps are dropping. The rain percent chance has jumped up to 80, so luckily no one actually saw any downpours. We've got 20 seconds left in quali. Everyone's got to be finishing up their runs or just trying to get a jump on the start finish line while they can. You got a few of them who are potentially poised to go up. For example, Nowicki is going on a lap here, has improved to P7, has leapfrogged Super Gaming, and is going to be taking a spot. Dimas, though, in a flying display of brilliance, and Cordon even faster, .596.
Yeah, Dimas did a warm-up lap. We saw him improve, and Lund's gone straight, so Lund unable to improve as well. So Joris is going to be P3, Lund P4, and that is a good day for Joris, for him to try and overtake the current championship leader.
Oh, it's a big day for Cordon, if no one else, because out of nowhere, same was like with Dimas.
Hold up, Aleda's on the lap. Aleda's looking strong. Comes across the line. It's P4 splitting the championship leaders.
It's .731. Wow, okay. Things just got a big shake-up, and things just got a little bit more interesting here in the paddock. So, Zerky is on a lap. Nope, they have fully exhausted their battery. I think they're not going to be getting an improvement here. Super Game into the pits. Nowicki is potentially... No, they're yielding. I think we're looking at quali order, folks. We are officially...
And there's the rain.
Looking at the quali order, and the rain is coming down.
Oh, just in time as well. Drivers able to put in their fastest lap, and the order stands as Cordor taking pole, Dimas in a second, Joris in third, Aleda in fourth, Lund in fifth, Finn finds himself sixth, Nowicki in seventh, Danny Coe finding himself in a nice 8th place, Super Gaming 9th, Ice Bear puts himself in 10th, Garufu in 11th, Zerky down in 12th, Riderhall in 13th, Alders in 14th, Johansson still has not impressed me in 15th, Lundqvist in 16th, and Alias in 16th. I got through them all!
Very nice. Well, Alia, interestingly, no time. Did not qualify.
Problems, maybe?
Potentially technical issue. Hopefully they managed to get it sorted by race start, and well, it's about 45 seconds realistically. But that is where we kind of leave things there. Cordon completely coming out of nowhere with a .596, only driver to cross into the .5s. Dimas and Joris take second and third with a .08 and a .633 respectively. Aleda with a .731 splits the two championship protagonists of Joris and Leo Lund, who gets a .815, and the rest of the order is visible on the screen.
Yeah, and I'll just checking the driver's chat. Nothing being said about Aliat not putting in a lap time, so no complaints from him.
Yeah, not sure really what's going on there, unfortunately. I hope that it's a quick resolution and there's no real problems, because the last thing we want to see is a driver having to bow out for something that's out of their control.
Absolutely. We head into the sunshine right now. Hard to mediums standard strategy.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that we will see a standard strategy setup. The variations in individual car setups are going to play a role, but I think we'll either see hard medium or medium hard. Things are looking pretty clear in terms of how the strategy is going to roll, unless we see any major upsets like a safety car or weather change.
Well, this is the track with the highest degradation on your tyres. It's going to wear up your tyres very quickly. We saw drivers get into puncture territory before in the Chinese Grand Prix. Well, we're probably going to see a couple more. Once again, the 5 lights are lighting up on your screen as we speak. They're illuminated. And we are racing here in China, and Cordor is going to be happy with that start, as he is just ever so ahead of the Alfa Aston Martin. But the Aston Martin of Dimas is going to honker down, hold his line. He has to yield the position, though, to make sure that he doesn't make any further contact with Cordor. And Cordor's going to say, thank you very much. That was technically yours. And Dimas has just lost a free position and now is going to lose a second one to Aleda, who makes a beautiful lunge and puts himself into P2. And what a start by Aleda. Started on the second row. Now he's in second place. He's going to be happy with the gains that he has made. While Lund is ahead of Joris. Joris lost out against the championship leader. He needs to be careful not to get too aggressive and play this strategically. But critically, he knows eventually he has to get past Lund.
Well, Joris bowed out pretty early in turn 1. They went quite wide, ended up losing that initial advantage between themselves and the likes of Aleda and Lund. So he's got a bit of work to get himself back into that fighting form. An early mistake like that is not going to do you any favors. All eyes really at the moment are on Lund and Dimas, as you can see them going right to the inside, fighting in contention for that position. Lund is going to make a bit of a move. Aleda is going to try and push past Cordon here, using the fullback straight to its advantage. I say Dimas got the best start out of everyone there, being able to get that early lunge on Cordon, even if it wasn't successful. The fact that they put that pressure on pretty much immediately speaks volumes about the confidence and how things are going in. Aleda is going to take the position from Cordon, but is the only driver, aside from Lundqvist, to not be running the hards. They're on the mediums.
Yeah, he's going to have to go aggressive early, see what gap he can pull onto the rest of the pack, as we're watching Dimas and Lund still battling each other quite hard. They're trying to... Well, Dimas is trying to hold back the Mercedes, but the Mercedes driver being ever so aggressive today, wanting to make a move down into turn 6. What can he do down here? Danny Rick once again, but now this has brought the attention of Joris, so they need to be careful. There might be 2 positions for Joris. He looks to go around the outside, 3 abreast. No, not into this corner. You don't do that, but somehow, once again, Dimas is able to put his car ahead and keep himself ahead of Lund. These two in the past have battled. We said earlier before this race started, these two we thought were the championship battle. They're still fighting like they are championship battling.
Yeah, well, really, and you're in the mindset of being in a championship battle. Everyone is your rival. Everyone can bring that kind of upset to the table. So you can't take any chances or take any favorites, really. Dimas right now is on the hard defensive, trying to keep Leo Lund at bay, but crucially, himself and Lund have both exhausted a heavy amount of resource. Aledo almost getting a little bit too excited as well. Has got that provisional P1. I only say provisional because, of course, he's going to have to go into the pits faster than anyone else. And he is going to have to take that into account, but he's exhausted a lot of resource and is seeing a bit of squirreling on the rear.
Yeah, and Aleda did at one point put himself a second ahead of Cawdor, but Cawdor has brilliantly worked his way back. That's straight massively helping these drivers to push them back into this fight. And we're going to see eventually again Aleda on this lap pull a bigger gap again. Those mediums are strong, and the last 2 laps, fastest lap going to Aleda as well, proving how much he is pushing. Aleda spun! Aleda has spun! All that hard work is not going to work out as he drops down the field. Oh no, the Ferrari driver. It's like 2022. Shambles.
I had a sneaking suspicion in the back of my mind that, okay, he's pushing quite hard. You see the micro adjustments in the steering, the squirreling at the back. It's only a matter of time before there's a mistake. Ice Bear, just in the background as well, has a big mistake of their own, reversing back onto track in P16. And it's kind of falling apart for a few drivers. Johansson, for instance, had to go back into the pits for a fresh front wing and is out on mediums. In fact, I think it's ghosted out, so they may have disconnected from the session. But DRS is now in effect, and something that Lund is going to be taking full advantage of to try and close the gap to Dimas, because between Dimas and Cawdor there's 1.7 seconds. It's going to be a difficult job closing that again to a point where it's viable.
Yeah, and it's going to be quite an annoying fight indeed. Here's a question for you. You've got the lovely statistics. What is our chances of rain in this race?
I hate to be the dampener, it's looking pretty slim. I don't see anything above 10% here, compared to Quali, where it was rapidly jumping, say 40, 50, 60, 70. Here, highest I see is 11%, and even then that's in an hour. So well, I don't think we're going to be seeing any major weather changes.
Well, a dry race makes it a bit simpler for these guys and reduces that complication, and we're not going to have too much of an upset. We're not going to see any of these drivers somehow jump up the board and get near the top. But it definitely now just goes to show, right, how much can you look after these tyres? Because even with a standard strategy, we still saw a lot of tyre wear from a starting wet to an early change to medium hards, and then some of them pitting again, and their tyres were hitting towards the 50%.
Yeah, you're getting towards the aggressive end of tyre degradation. I mean, for instance, right now, these hard tyres, you're already sitting at about 10% wear. So I know that these hard tyres are designed to be the mile munchers between that and the compound you actually want, but the degradation is very aggressive. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some people go into a 2-stopper. I
wouldn't be surprised as well, and I think Aleda might be thinking of doing something like that. Someone just dived into the pits, that's Lundqvist. So he getting his boots off and replacing it for something better. When would realistically though, we'd be looking, if you're going to 2-stop, around lap 10 to perform that strategy?
That depends. I mean, if we're looking at a 1-stop, chances are we would see around lap 16, 17 where people start to peel into the pits. Or at least everyone should be done by that point, heading on to the mediums. Because the mediums, you're looking at about a 60-ish% before you really want to start thinking about getting off them. Because they do have a good balance of longevity and pace. Like the hard tires, they will carry you a long way, but they don't have a high pace to begin with. So really, the sooner you can get off them and into the optimum compound, the better.
Well, you heard it from the man as we ride on board with Lund, but I can see on the timing screen, Joris getting a better exit of the two, so potentially can close that gap. And if you want to overtake and you do use your ERS, about 4/10 behind is the range you want to be to make the attack. As you can see, oh, that's very deep from Joris, and that's going to open himself a can of worms for Finn, as Finn does have a look, but decides, you know what, I'm just going to leave this one be for the moment. That wasn't the right time to make the move.
Here's what I would do in Joris's position. I don't know if he has an engineer in his ear, but if he does, he's going to be getting some additional information, like just how the other drivers are doing, for instance. Of course, from our perspective, we can see everything. And if I was in Joris's position, I would play Lund's aggressive approach to his disadvantage. I can see that Joris has got about 75% on his battery right now. And that's going to be in stark contrast to the drivers ahead, who are going to be exhausting a lot of their battery by comparison to either hold their position or to push for a new one. Like, I know Lund is going to be using most, if not all, of his battery to try and get around Dimas, or at least put the pressure on. So if I was Joris, I'd just stick behind. I'd conserve my resources. I'd let them wear each other out. I'd let Dimas and Lund both exhaust their batteries and their tyre life. Like, I'd go a bit too aggressively, basically. And then I'd pounce, almost like a vulture, when it suits me. Because then I know they've got no recourse.
Absolutely. And we look at the timing board. That's 3/10 for Lund. So DRS is going to become super effective here. As you can see, the timing board slowly decreasing. And is this a free move for Lund? He's looking down into turn 14. Again, you're saying he's aggressive. He's definitely putting himself in a position of, I'm here, I'm ready to attack. But like as you said, I think Lund is also playing that position because he's got DRS hit. He's not having to really worry about not being quick. He's got that luxury of going faster down the straights, and he can just wait patiently behind Dimas, wait for him to make a natural mistake, and then overtake. Of course, this is allowing Cordor to run away. He's already 2.2 seconds. So Lund could play the same strategy Joris is, but just make sure he's not known and is more present.
Yeah, I did describe Lund as aggressive, but no, I didn't describe him as headstrong. I think he also knows the position he's in, and now he can basically farm Dimas for resources, or not using his own resource in this scenario. So he can play that to his effect. He knows that Cordon's getting away, but really that's on Dimas's shoulders. Lund can't do anything on that front from his position, so he doesn't need to worry about that. All he needs to worry about is just using the situation at hand, using the driver that's in front of him, putting the pressure on until such a point where it's convenient that he can get by, and he's not going to get counter-attacked for it. But saying that, Joris is coming closer and closer, so that time window is starting to run out.
Yeah, Joris is using all of his ERS, a large burst, and flashing red lights for the Mercedes ahead of him. Lund, he's not happy with his position as Joris is going to go wide round the outside, but that has compromised a bit of his race. And I've just seen a pop-up. Joris actually had disconnected. He's only just hopping back onto the game. But yeah, Joris, that was a bit of an odd move from Joris to go quite deep around the outside.
I don't think he planned to go deep around the outside, but he did plan to basically make Lund panic. So you saw there, he basically forced him to use whatever battery he had left, put him in a compromised position for the corner. I think he was a little bit late on the brakes, later than he should have been. Could have taken a better corner through turn 14. But his main objective has been accomplished, because now Lund is on the recovery drive rather than being the aggressor on Dimas like he wants to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dropping a bit further back, let's talk about some of the drivers in this mid-pack. You've got Super Gaming, who's trying to chase down, well, essentially all these drivers down to a leader are all in this train for second place. And Super Gaming's really applying the pressure in PA onto third place Danny Coe. And for the Battle of P7, he is in that position where he could make a move here, and it won't affect him too much because Danny Coe's also close to Norwicket.
Yeah, this kind of concertina effect. You're going to watch in a minute as we see as soon as one driver makes a bit of a lunge, all of them are going to make a lunge. And it's going to be like a concertina effect. We see Danico with a little bit of a slip coming out of turn 14 there and heading through turn 15, 16. He is going to lose the little bit of composure. That could put him in the crosshairs of Super Gaming if he's not careful. But I think it's not going to be until someone makes a major move or a major mistake we'll suddenly see this flood of positional changes.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Zerky in P11, 3.6 seconds behind all of this battle. So if you are from P11 backwards, these points are going to be extremely hard to get to, and as on your screen, fairly equal. The rear tyres of Danico is looking better than Super Gaming by 2%. So a little bit more care from Danico.
Yeah, so a little bit of tire management is going to go a long way on this circuit. That's why I think the aggressive style of driving kind of serves against you here. I know that at this level, everyone's pretty much dialed in terms of how they drive, how they handle the car. Ooh, what has just happened there between Norris and Lund?
Ghosting!
I think that's a disconnect or some form of connection issue, because it looks like for a split second, Lund phased into the quantum realm.
Yeah, he did. He did go into the quantum realm, and now he's not got DRS. He's not got pace. And you said you wanted an opportunity. There's the opportunity Danny Coe's going to take, as well as a Leder looking to the inside of Super Gaming. But Danny Coe's gone straight. He's not been able to make the move properly, and this is going to cause a little bit more havoc up ahead. Super Gaming now want to get onto the rear end of a Leder, because a Leder is getting a good run out of the corner. He's now ahead of Lund. And now Super Gaming is saying, you know what? I'm still here for the battle round the outside, but Lund is phasing out for some reason.
He's fully disconnected from the session.
Oh,
so
no.
He's a sitting duck out there. It's all come undone. But saying that, Ryderdal, what's going on there? Seems like he got tipped on the inside by Danico coming through turn 3.
All that hard work and the gap he had, well, the closeness he had to the front runners, now gone. He's got a lot of work to do. But what has happened really? Leder's jumped a truckload of positions. Lund now, he's really allowed Joris to take the championship lead. Well, his attempt, yeah, he's get Joris the lead again. And Lund now sits back and watches on from here, because he won the last 2 races, Lund. He wants to be on that podium. And Joris is sitting here going, you know what, I'm on the podium again. And I'm sitting comfortably here.
Well, now Lund's in a race against time. He doesn't have anything that he can do besides just get back in that lobby ASAP, because your championship literally could depend on this. So he needs to get back in, and he needs to get back in now. I can't see any other comms around the rest of the server or anything like that, but definitely looking like a sticky situation for Lund right now.
P9, and he's just going to slowly creep onto P10. There's already a 3.6 second gap between Danny Coe and P7. Yeah, that's his race ruined, unless there is a safety car, which, realistically speaking here, if you want to go statistics, I'd probably say there's about a 10% chance of a safety car here. You don't really see much, and with the drivers we have here, they are very respectful drivers. We don't get many safety cars due to collisions, and also the nature of this track. Look at it; it's wide as hell. So the chances of someone going into a wall and breaking a tire is going to be minimal. So it's going to be contact with one another. Hence why my prediction around 10%.
Well, that is kind of part of it, and why you see so many safety cars on street circuits. The game does, to its fair credit, it does have a level of calculation in terms of how the different kinds of tracks affect safety car probability. So a street circuit, 0 runoff, debris on the track, safety cars more but guaranteed. But you have someone running off, if they're deep in the gravel trap and they've lost a tire, chances are that will just be a local yellow or maybe a VSC at most. Like, the game's credit, it does have that level of intelligence to say, okay, this track's got a lot of runoff. Safety cars are going to be quite unlikely unless it's literally an on-track obstacle. Leo Lund, though, he's back in the session.
And he will be happy with that. And on your screen, pit window is open for the medium tyre strategy. So the likes of a Leder, who is running those medium tyres, who was leading this race on lap 3, finding himself all the way down in P6. This is where he will look to make that decision. Do I go for this 2-stop and risk it in this P6 position? Or do I try that 1-stop strategy and use the mile munchers to the end?
To be honest, if I was in a Leder's position, I've already taken too much of a risk with the early on-track issue. So he got to the top end, dropped down to P10. Now he's recovered to P6. If I was in a Leder's position, I'd honestly play it safe. I'd take it onto the hards in a fairly standard strategy. So in this case, I'll be looking maybe around, say, lap 13. See if I can stretch those mediums a bit more. But I would be going for a 1-stopper, surely. I don't want to compromise what positions I have recovered from my early incident.
Well, it's going to be a case of wait and see what he chooses to do, as he is up the rear end of the Aston Martin of Norwicki, but he's not going to make any move as he's part of this lovely DRS train. I don't think anybody is ready to make the pounce. We're going to be seeing that more towards lap 14 to lap 16, where the hard tyre drivers will go and pit. But it's a question a lot of people ask, is why don't we have much overtaking in this racing? Well, why don't they overtake now when the pit window technically is open?
Oh, you've got to balance what we call the optimum window of your tires and your resources at hand. So you can technically, yes, you can pit on lap 7 for your set of mediums. You can get 2 sets of mediums, and then technically you're on higher pace for those laps while you have the shorter stints. But the problem with that is you have to then offset with the time you lose from the pit stops. So in the same vein, if I was to say go into a pit 3 laps earlier than anyone else, completely messes with everyone else in terms of strategy and getting myself back out on track in time, I could have potentially wasted about a second compared to if I ran my current tires, say those couple laps longer, and really got the massive difference in pace later on. It's a balancing act. So why we see everyone using the pit window basically at the same time, it's either 1, to just maximize the current strategy in terms of timings, or 2, you're just following the leader, which a lot of the times can decide the race. You have to follow the cadence of the leader, or if you get put in an overcut position, you can be out of luck a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I tell you, people who's going to lose out as well on this pit strategy, it's going to be the Ferraris and Aston Martins. They're both within the top 10s and all very close to each other, so it's going to be a case of whoever is ahead gets main call. Now, these drivers might not be speaking to each other as well, so, well, they might be. The rarity is very low in this type of league where it is every man for himself. But if you are ahead, you essentially make the call, right, am I going to pit now or am I going to let the driver behind? And every time you go past that pit box, you are allowing someone to go past, as someone has retired. Is that in the pit lane?
Right at all in the pit lane.
It is in the pit lane. But yeah, that is going to be the problem for the likes of Dimas, Norwicki, Finn, and a Leder.
Luckily, with those sets of drivers, though, they are within sort of what we'll call eye shot of one another. So in a Leder and Norwicki's case, they can see what their teammates are doing. So it's very simple. If they see their teammate going into the pit when they plan to pit, they stay out a lap longer. If they don't have communication, they have to kind of rely on each other to sort of intuitively clock what the other's doing. So the responsibility is on the second driver here in this case. It looks like Aliat has had a bit of a moment coming off turn 10.
I was going to say, it was showing a full course yellow briefly for a second, and I got a little excited as Dimas Finn was getting ever so close to Joris, but we'd been seeing that Dimas actually had been applying the pressure, and in goes the pits. That was a Ferrari. I swear that was a Ferrari. No, it was a leather.
That is a leather with, of course, being on the medium. So stretching those mediums a bit longer than I would have projected. So I said about lap 13, 14. So a bit deep on them, in my opinion. But he was following the pace of the front pack, so can't blame him too much. Either way, he's going to come through here on the pit on the hard. He's going to come out just ahead of Justin Alders here. Is he going to stay out? Yes, he is. Going to be P11 coming out of the pits. And now we're going to see who is going to be next. Aliat is going to head into the pits. I think they've got front wing damage as well. Oh, no, they're just switching compounds. They're going onto the mediums earlier than anyone else. So first driver on the standard strategy to make their primary pit stop. Yeah, Lund as well is on 2-lap-old medium, so they must have pitted pretty much as soon as they reconnected to the session in order to just get the pit stop out of the way and see what they can do in terms of a resurgence on the field.
Absolutely, and he would need to do anything he can, and critically Aletto's in fresh air as well, so he's got no driver ahead of him with any dirty air. Though the dirty air is minimal, it still has an effect on these cars, so he's going to be happy to be able to run his own race and apply put down some good lap times, as Aliat gets a 5-second time penalty for cutting the corner. So who's going to be making that dive? I see that Dimas and Finn are going to make the lunge, Super Gaming as well. So now we turn to Aleda. He's coming down to turn 14. Where is he going to come out? The rest of them are going to change onto those medium compound tyres. The hard compound tyres, the hardest to fire up. And you can still see the Ferrari driver twitching away. But has this early pit stop worked for him? He's coming up to the start-finish line. Has he made himself ahead of the others? They're out on track. He is behind. He runs past Super Gaming, but Finn is just ahead, and he's unable to get past his teammate.
I'm going to be honest, I was clenched for a split second there because it looked like Super Gaming and Aleda were going to cross paths in a big way, but just afforded the space. Is going to hold P10. Finn is going to get just out ahead along with Dimas, so credit to them on the strategy timings. Now all eyes for me are on Cordon, Joris and Nowicki at the front. Their teammates, not a concern. They have had their pit stops, and now it's just a case of whenever the leader decides, the rest of them go.
Absolutely, and Cordor, he's looking comfortable, isn't he? We've not really spoken about him much because he's been chilling, relaxing, enjoying his own race, the Ministry of Defense that is Cordor. He's just vibing.
There you go. Yeah, so here we go. This is where the hard runners are getting onto the mediums. You say get in on those ideal compounds basically as soon as possible, and you see the rest of them following suit. I always say this, but a quiet race is a good race. From the perspective of the drivers, yes, it's not entertaining for us, and the show and everything like that, but the best kind of races are the ones where nothing happens from the driver's perspective. So Cordon here is in prime position. He's coming out P4. Technically, it's going to be remaining in P1. He's out ahead of Dimas by 1.6 seconds here. Joris is going to come out as well in a good spot, but is crucially going to be basically running thin on the battery, where he really wrung it out heading into lap 16. And now you've got a few other drivers who have yet to take their mandated pit stop, like Danny Koch, Yorofu, and Zerki. But this is where things really heat up now. Everyone's getting onto that medium, and we're going to see the real pace start to fly.
Yeah, and talking of real pace, Dimas. Well, there was a lovely, 2.6 second gap between Dimas and Cordor. Well, let's just say Dimas is up the rear end of Cordor, and he's been out a lap longer. So his tyres are fired up right now. I was saying just literally a lap before, yeah, Cordor's chilling. He's relaxing and all. I commentated cursed that like no other. And Cordor is now going to have to demonstrate to us why we nickname him the Ministry of Defense. He is going to have to hold back a raging Dimas, a driver who hasn't been showing his pace for the last few races. But he's coming out in force today. He just can't get past on this lap. And again, Finn just a bit further back on Joris. Again, also can't get past. But you can see the flashing red lights from both Dimas and Joris. They've used all their energy to try and close down these gaps.
Oh, I am going to go out on a limb here and I say I don't think that Cordon really feels that threat. In the time we've had this conversation, Cordon's tyres are now up to temp. Really, Dimas had that 1 lap window while they were cold to get a move done. He didn't get it done. He's closed the gap, yes. But now, crucially, Cordon can get a bit of a leapfrog, a little bit of toe off the likes of Zerky and Garofu up ahead. Or saying that, it is going to be looking like Zerky is going to yield. Potentially, Garofu is going to be too far ahead, though. And Zerky's in a bit of an awkward position for Dimas, though. He's trying to get past.
Oh, no. And
he got stuck.
You can see Zerky is trying to respectfully get out the way. He is doing what he can, but at the same time, every time he moves, you can see the aggression from Dimas. He's trying to get past. And that then looks like defending, but Zerky is genuinely trying to get out the way, and all the hard work Dimas has done, he's now getting pushed right back into the Mercedes of Joris. The Williams of Joris. And it's just gone from bad to worse, and Zerky is now going to be overtaken, and I'm sure Dimas is raising his fist and having a go at the Haas driver. Don't worry, I'll have conversations.
It's not blue flag rules, so technically he doesn't have to yield. That's like a sportsmanship kind of thing. But even then, it's the equivalent of you see someone walking across from you on the pathway, like on the sidewalk, and you both try to predict to get out of each other's way, and then you both go to the same side, and then you both go back to the other side, thinking that the other is going to go on the other side. It's like that. We just saw that for about half a lap in real time.
Absolutely, we did, and I think Finn is going to be eyeing up a good move on to Zerky now as well. I thought it was going to be someone a bit more important, but again, the closing of the door from Zerky, so it is for position, as we mentioned, but again, that has been a pain in the neck, and this time, he definitely is not given away as easily. He might be thinking this actually is a proper race driver he can fight with, and beautifully done side by side, going through turns 9 and 10 as well, and eventually the Ferrari driver gets past. But that's a nice overtaking move to add to his list.
Yeah, that was certainly well driven from the both of them there. I know we talked earlier about yielding, but I think it was just a bad exit.
Oh, I'm just going to interrupt you here. Cordor is going to make the move onto Garufu, so he's now got himself into a prime position. I honestly thought that was Lund for a second. I do apologise.
Yeah, but that Cordon has got that DRS as well, which is a crucial thing that kind of serves him well in this position. Now he's got a hard runner between the two of them. Is Garufu going to head into the pits? I'd be very surprised if he doesn't. Yep, there we go. But it's 1.6 seconds. Oh, 1.8 seconds now. My mistake. And Joris very close behind a Dimas. Cordon could once again be looking very comfortable.
He could be indeed. He just needs to put in some good fast laps. And talking of fast laps, Danny Coe's found his pace with his medium tyres, but he's also got some free air for himself. So his pit stop phase, he decided to go a bit later than the rest of them. And Danny Coe, P9 with 4-second gap. It's not looking like a great day for him, and that third spot in this championship is slowly creeping away.
Yeah, with every passing lap, the light can almost be seen to fade a little bit further and further. I mean, fastest lap does speak to something. Ooh, Dimas and Joris getting very close and personal there. But yeah, the fastest lap, it's either an extra point or it's damage control. There is no in between.
There absolutely is. We're watching Joris and Dimas squabble amongst each other. We're going to ride on board with Joris, and I think if he gets a good exit here, the overtake is going to be possible. How much is Dimas going to defend? There's definitely some deployment of ERS to keep them side by side. You could see that the Williams is out of ERS for himself, and he's going to hold that inside line, but the switch from Dimas might be more favourable. You can see no flashing red light. Is that now a mindset for Dimas to go, you know what? I actually have some battery here. I can reclaim this position. He decides, no, not for this occasion. Play safe than sorry and build up his charge even further.
Yeah, well, Joris put everything into that move and then got the regen on the hairpin. So pretty smart there. He actually didn't lose all that much battery compared to Dimas. But yeah, that gap that he made coming through the final few corners was crucial. It really just set Joris up to keep that P2, where usually we see two DRS zones after one another being played almost like a game of chicken. Not the case here. Joris just had the superior run, and not even a DRS run with some overtake can come back from that.
No, it does not. Shall we talk about the battle for P4 at the moment? So Finn is finding himself 1.7 seconds behind Dimas. He's unable to fight for this podium position. But he's got on his rear end Super Gaming and Norwicki, trying to put some pressure, gain some bigger points here, but not too far back as well, and closing in a rapid rate of knots. A leader with Lund on the rear end as well.
Yeah, everyone is kind of just looking for space at the moment, I think. Not necessarily move, so like Finn can't really do anything from his position. He just needs to stay in his lane, run his race. Everyone's kind of got parity with the tyre, so barring a leader, everyone's on the mediums, and even then the mediums are looking about 25% overall, looking between drivers, give or take a few. So, like, some are conserving them better than others. The rear left seems to get worn quite a lot, and I think that's the responsibility of this first sector here in particular. We really see them being put through their paces at that stage. And on the hard runners, you'll be looking about 15%, but Johansson, completely in a world of his own. 18 laps on the mediums right now. Surely he's going to have to go in soon because he's a sitting duck out there.
He's in P15 though. He has pitted, hasn't he? I'm just checking. Yeah, he's pitted as well. So he technically doesn't need to pit again, but he's going to be starting to push into that puncture territory. Unnecessarily needed that he needs to do that because he's slowly dropping away from Alters for P14. It's not for points. This is for pride from here onwards. But again, they're going to pop. They are 100% going to pop.
Yeah, well, doing a little bit of extrapolation, a little bit of quick maths, and judging by how 6 laps, you're looking at about 25%. Surely those mediums are at least on about 75 to 80% right now. If you're on 19 laps, you've basically got to come in now. Or technically yesterday, I would have thought about coming in. Looking at the track though, just wider considerations, we've kind of seen a few packs start to form. We've got Cordor completely on his own. I'm not sure if you've got the track map and tyres on the front side.
Nope.
That's being requested. But you've got Joris and Dimas are in their own little pack, kind of fighting for P2 here. You've got Finn and Super Gaming and Nowicki also in a little pack of 3, fighting against one another. Aleda and Lund. Lund is back on the map now, but he has had to do a lot of pushing here in order to get to where he has to be in the points. Daniko's a little bit further behind. Girofu 11 seconds behind, and this is where you get into that second pack. So Icebear, Zerki, Lundqvist, Alders, Johansson are give or take about 5 seconds spaced between one another. And then Aliat a whole 40 seconds where they had a lot of issues early on in the race.
Yeah, look, issues in qualifying, not even setting a lap time, and now being 40 seconds behind. I genuinely think there must be a steering wheel problem or whatever input that he's using. There's a problem with that, which is meaning that he's unable to race at his full potential today, and hopefully he comes back again later on. Johansson, 3-second time penalty. Has his tyres popped yet?
They are still alive, but yeah, for Aliat, it's a race to forget. It's definitely a race to forget. I think even at this stage, it might been mentally checked out and said, all right, I'm already focused on next round. Let's not even worry about here. Let's just make it to the end, bring the car home. We've only got 4 laps here. We are coming to that closing stage. But that closing stage also means that for the drivers at the front, looking at moves, I'm looking at you, DMAS and Super Gaming, it's basically now or never.
Yeah, and we just had a little statistics up. It was on the wrong drivers that I really wanted showing. But Finn, his tyres are worse off by about 2% compared to Dimas's tyres. So any attack that comes from Finn is not going to happen. But you said earlier, he's going to run his course, run his own lane, not do much from it. And I've just seen a yellow flag and the timings go massively up. It's not Johansson. I thought it was.
It was Johansson.
Oh, it was?
It was. He did lose the rear coming through turn 14.
We just cut to him and I was hoping to see him trundle. I don't know why. I want him to trundle now. Just to have that, my statistic of guaranteed there's going to be at least somebody. I didn't say guaranteed, but I was predicting someone will get a puncture. But we're riding aboard with Dimas, whose tyres are comfortable.
Oh, you literally just said that. Johansson's delaminated on the front left.
Hey, and we're just gonna, there we go. This is what I wanted. This is what I wanted, and it had to be with Johansson as well. But critically, you look at where these other drivers are, they're going to be slowly coming up to Johansson's position. And yes, he will ghost, but even so, that is a slight annoyance for these drivers and can get in the way.
I'd say if you're going on that line of thinking, Aliat's basically right in front of Cordon.
It's lucky that the ghosting mechanics are available on this game, and as we are on lap 25. Dimas not going to make the Daniel Ricciardo lunge onto turn 6 and is going to wait patiently. Most likely, I feel Dimas is going to wait until the last moment possible, which will be into turn 14 on the last lap.
Yeah, potentially. Though, that being said, if you are putting your faith into the move that late, that is a problem. You don't want to put your eggs into that late of a basket. Realistically, you want to be set up in your target position by the start of the lap, not by the end.
Well, the target position, you got a good battle. As you can see, the Hats trundling down this very long straight. That's going to feel like ages for the Haas driver to get back to the pit lane. But yeah, turn 1, turn 2 overtake with potential turn 6 overtake. If you make that move at the start of the lap or on the previous lap going for turn 14, yeah, you're in a good position. But realistically, the strength of the turn 14 overtake is super strong. So I agree to disagree, but I guess the only answer is let's see what happens.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, in a typical scenario, Shanghai, it's its own unique challenge, but in a typical scenario, you want to be in the position that you want to finish at by the start of the final lap, because then that gives you an opportunity to either fend off any attackers or secure the position with whatever resources you have left.
We're going to stick with Dimas and his charge on to Joris, but we're also keeping an eye on the timing board for Finn's defense for 4th against Super Gaming and Norwicki. Unfortunately, I mentioned Aleda potentially getting involved here, but Aleda wasn't able to close down that gap. Those hard tyres, they're not really working to the best of his abilities, and they're not doing bad, because he is maintaining that 0.2 to 0.4 of a second gap, but he's not really in this fight for P6.
I don't think it really is. I mean, considering even by this point, the pace difference is still quite strong between tyre compounds. So you can't really bank on any big gains being made. I mean, we are seeing on the medium compound about 40 to 50% starting to get into that realm of wear, but we're so close to the end that we're not going to see the pace fall off.
We're not indeed. Penultimate lap, the lap before the final, and you can see how close Dimas is. He's already looking to apply the pressure on to Joris here. you might be right in saying that these drivers are thinking like you rather than thinking like me. He's possibly going to be putting the pressure onto Joris now, make his presence known, ready to pounce on a move as early as possible. But remember how powerful turn 14 overtake is, as he's going to have to wait patiently into turn 6.
This is the balance. You've got to make sure you secure your move, but also have enough resources to fend off any attackers. So if I'm in Dimas's position, I got to weigh up very, very carefully what I do here. I can, of course, go for the turn 14 lunge, get that position secured, but I basically have to spend the next entire lap fully on the cusp, like really just balancing my battery and getting the recharge there, or I am going to just get overtaken on turn 14, like you say.
Absolutely, and again, the tyres showing up, it's the wrong drivers, but Finn's tyres are actually hitting 50%. Dimas has actually really conserved his tyres nicely at the 45%, but that's what he's going to be using now to close down onto Joris. He's going to look for the move into turn 14. He claims second position. All is now in his corner. He is going to control this second place, but a little squirmy on the exit. That's going to open a door and widen the eyes of Joris to say, hang on a minute. Yeah, he's ahead, but he doesn't have a lot of control. And you just saw Finn further back. He went slightly wide. He'll take a little bit of a warning on the steward's room. What has Joris got left to fight back and to apply further pressure onto the Aston Martin driver? Turn 6 is the next place of overtaking, where Daniel Ricciardo made his name for being the latest of late breakers. How late is he willing to lunge? Not late at all, and he's going to have to wait patiently through the S's.
He's not going to do it, I don't think. I think he's putting all of his eggs into the turn 14 basket. That's really Joris's only real safe haven now. He messed up the exit on the final couple of corners, on the final corner. That's why he didn't get the immediate retake heading into the final lap. So all of his eggs, and you can see he's not pushing the overtake button nearly as often as you would think he should. Dimas is about the same battery level too, so all eyes are on these two as we come through turn 13. And we're setting up for that final desperate lunge. Dimas knows it too. He is going to probably put everything in as well, just the same. He immediately goes on the defensive here. They're both pumping absolutely everything into this move. Joris with the DRS. Both of them hanging them tight to the inside. Cordon looking very calm over in turn 14. It's a big lunge down the final corner, or the final main hairpin. He is going to get the move done. But
no, he's not.
He isn't going to get to keep it. Big switch back at the end potentially, but no, Cordon is going to come across the line to win the Chinese Grand Prix. Dimas and Joris are going to put all their fighting. It's going to be Dimas who takes home P2 and Joris with P3 to round off the podium. And Cordon, might I say, dramatic finish.
Yeah,
I think we're seeing a little bit of a league racing tradition, just upholding those traditions.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely. At the end of the race, you go and put your car into the wall. But looking at the timing gaps, look how close Super Gaming was against Finn. He was on the cusp of taking Finn's position as well, and on the exit of turn 16 as well. So all getting ever so close between these drivers.
It's tensions are heating up. That I can tell you for absolutely sure. No one is willing to yield an inch, especially as we come through to the final few races of the championship now.
Yeah, and it is close now. We're past the halfway point. It is a case of, right, who's willing to take what risk, who's going to do what, when, where, how, why. And Lundqvist is going to take the fastest lap point. I broke it. I broke something.
Oh,
Oops.
no.
Everything fell. I do apologise. Go back to the race. We still got stuff to show. We still got the grid. I broke something.
Oh dear. Well, we can hopefully run through the grid. Toot sweet. Once it comes through on my end.
Absolutely, yep. But don't worry, I've got everything back to normal. Just the camera's not gonna show, because my tripod fell and is now, well, I ain't using that tripod anymore. Cordor takes the win of this race. Dimas finding himself in second place, just fending off Joris. Finn in third. Super Gaming in fifth. Did I get that right? No, Joris in third. Finn in fourth. Super Gaming fifth. Norwicki in sixth. Danico finding himself in seventh. Lund, not where he wants to be, hands the championship back to Joris for this occasion. Aleda in P9. Ice Bear in P10. Gorofu in P11. Zerki in 12. Lundvist 13. Alters in 14th. Aliat in 15. Johansson goes in at 16th. And Riderhook did not finish in 17th.
Yeah, so the one retiree, unfortunately for Ryderdal, he did have a good performance up until that point where I say that first sector just getting, I think, tipped by Danica. I'm not sure. Nothing has, at least from what I've seen, come up yet in Stewards' inquiries regarding today's race.
What? Oh, my camera is working. Hold up.
I don't see anything coming through, or at least not for a while. So we may see a few things be flagged up to race control, yet to be seen. And of course, keep in mind that all of this is provisional, and we do have the stewards to look to for the final results, which should be processed in not too much time.
I think I fixed it.
I think you fixed it.
I say that it's very unfocused, but you know what? It's there. You kind of got me in the background. We'll take it and leave it. Moving on to the next race, which is going to another track with a lovely long straights and great overtaking opportunities. We're heading to Mexico, where the mice is speedy and the food's delicioso. I took that from the Simpsons hit and run game.
Yeah, so the Circuit de Hermanos Rodriguez, I hope I got that right, is a brilliant track. I'm a big fan. I personally love it. It's up there as one of my favorites.
Ooh, I wouldn't put it that high up in my opinion. I think it can't beat Kota in terms of the beauty of overtaking and spectating. But yeah, the Mexican Grand Prix definitely poses a different style of challenging. It's got some similarities to a lot of the tracks. The S section demonstrating good amount of downforce. You've got the straight line speed that comes from the longest run into turn one, where realistically most drivers will actually want to qualify on the second row rather than the first row.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the interesting quirks about it. Is start finish straight, I think, is the longest on the calendar. And that lends itself to some, we'll call it, interesting scenarios. But turns 8 through to 11 and 12, like, what probably, in terms of driver commitment and in skill-based corners, it's got to be one of the best out there, at least for me.
Well, we're going to have to see, as we will be seeing that next week. And if you enjoyed the action, of course, don't forget to hit subscribe to this channel. Stay tuned with all the action. I believe Tier 1 is still running, question mark? No, it is not. So if you're not looking for the professionals, they're taking a break. They've completed their season. So you're going to have to put up with us. Stay tuned next week, as we will be heading to Mexico. Anything from you, Ben, to finish us off?
I'd say it's just been great fun, and I'm looking forward to next week.
Well, thank you very much for watching, and good night.
This broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega, proudly supporting PSGL.